Fingers in mouths are hot. You can put that as a quote. Fingers in mouths are hot. Dash Leah Riley.
Annyeonghaseyo! Welcome to Afternoona Delight, where Leah, Megan, and Amy, romance novelists, and your K-romance guides. So grab some dekboki and listen to your new favorite unnies.
Hey, Megan.
Hello, Leah.
We could do Amy over on the side. Hi there. But
oh,
Amy
yeah, what does she... Yeah, she says, hi there.
Yeah, hi there. Amy's not with us today, is the TLDR. So Mom has left the building. Prepare for the topic of today's show is toe sucking and Korean drama.
Blood blisters.
I love that people from the last episode were like, can we just not do that again? I'm like, I can't promise you no. I can't.
The comments on our Instagram from our This and That episode are hysterical. I love them. And I have to be honest, this week, I listened to the end of that episode probably 3 times and like cried laughing every time. It was so funny. And I know I'm laughing at us, like, but I don't care. I am amused by us. So
I am too. But I will say that we had one listener say, please no toe sucks or exploding foot blisters, s'il vous plaît. And someone else said, thanks, AJ, for your valiant efforts to hit the make it stop button on the blood blisters and toe sucking. I appreciate you.
No one sided with us.
No, nobody sided with us. I mean, what's there to side with, really?
I mean, I don't blame them.
The day after we recorded, I'm like, did I discuss how I would suck someone's toe and then take it all the way down to their ankle? Like, here we are going. And I was like, I did that, like, people are gonna, like, that lives on. That's gonna be my legacy.
And I said about Anoju calling me a dirty little girl, like, so ridiculous.
So if either of us get hit by a bus and people are like, who were those people? They can look it up, and that's gonna be what they, like, are gonna, like, is that gonna be the sum total of my existence?
That's what they're playing at our funeral. So basically we were scheduled to record about The Glory Part 2, but Amy couldn't make it. So we're going to put that on hold, record that next week because all 3 of us are, kind of excited to talk about it. Obviously a lot happened. So it's just Leah and I. So we're kind of, doing another sort of like winging it or like unburdening ourselves.
Yeah. So we're not winging it. We decided to come up with a topic, and the topic that we came up with was one that I feel like is fun that we put in our Patreon every blue moon, which is essentially about unburdening yourself. Because as you sit and engage with entertainment, there's lots of things that will crop up for a person. And, we tend to, we do have uncensored episodes or things that can be more general. But a lot of times we do have, like, let's talk about X drama and whatever. And so this is an opportunity for us, again, to look more broad-based at, like, where we're at with our drama watching. And, like, what are some things that we just kind of need to get off our chest here in the next 50 minutes to an hour.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you want to go first?
Well, I thought maybe to start at the very beginning was I'm going to work my way through as we do this, involving some folks from the Patreon as well, simply because I think that listeners will find that relatable or not, or maybe feel like they have a strong disagreement, which is also fun.
Yeah.
So I'll read off, let's see. I'm going to read off 3 and then we can go to some of ours. So one we have is, can there be a moratorium on serial killer / murder subplots in our fluffy rom-coms?
Right.
So some people are feeling like they're over the need that the rom-coms of late tend to have just murder chilling around the side.
Right. So I didn't see Crash Course in Romance yet, but I think that was what they were referring to.
I think there's been a few, but definitely I don't think it was executed well in Crash Course.
Romance. That's it. Well, Summer Strike had one as well, and Summer Strike is like this, like, a sweet, fluffy rom-com with like a green flag MC1 and all of a sudden there's just like murder. And it's kind of brutal. Like, I'm like, so I have to, I mean, I don't mind a murder subplot, but I do have to admit, in Summer Strike, it kind of took away from like the overall, like the drama had a lot of like vibes about like, what does it mean to be happy? And like, what are you pursuing that makes you happy? Things like that, like a really kind of like nice message. And then all of a sudden there's just like killing. And
so
like suicide. Like, it was terrible.
From a writer's perspective, where it feels like maybe the trend is going right now is when you're kind of like looking at your plot, you'll have your high concept of like, this is my fluffy rom-com premise of whatever it is, like Summer Strike, stuttering librarian by the sea, I guess, or whatever.
Right.
But then you're like, okay, I can't really sustain that for like 12 to 16 episodes. So for the saggy middle to fill out the plot, if we throw in some murder, then we at least have like an external conflict that's going to like drive the story a bit. I think that it just feels like it's become this kind of like rating crutch to be like, when in doubt, and you know you've got a high concept, but you're not quite sure how to milk it over this length of episodes. If you have some murder, you're going to like be able to like, you know, get through a few episodes just on that murdering.
Right. That's what Summer Strike was. It was like the murder took up 2 episodes, and all of a sudden I was like, where did my sweet romance go? Like, what?
And I thought about this with like our books too. Like, okay, so what do we do? Like, what are we doing where we're not having, because if we threw murder into like an average romance book, you're changing the genre to like romantic suspense generally. Like a rom-com is not going to just be having murder in the middle of it. But what I think we do, at least in books, especially that like as writers we're taking up time with generally, not all the time, but generally, is sex. And they're not going there. And so therefore, that's like I'm wondering if we're swapping out sex for murder as like the plot enhancement to keep the story going.
That's so amazing. It's funny because when I'm writing and I know that I have like a sex scene coming up, I'm like, I usually save it for when I have like a chunk of time to write, like a decent chunk of time, because I know that I like easily I'll hit like 1,500 words in a writing session just on like sometimes even just the build up to it. Like I know I can like pad out almost a full chapter based on just like one like sex scene. The lead
and
up,
that's not to say that there's
scene
like
and the
not intention, I guess, you know, like, so I want to make it seem like, you know, you're not just putting it in to fill up space.
No, it's there. Like, correct.
Yeah. It's like, it does ratchet up the tension. Like, the like the murder. Instead, we have like, you know, the build up to the sexy time tension building up. So, I mean, I think maybe it's the replacement for if you don't have, you know, it's sex or violence. Maybe that it occurred to me now. I'd have to think about it more if I wanted to hang that as a truism, but I do think that makes sense because I'm looking at the writers being like, what are you going to do to continue driving like conflict in the story beyond just like the internal conflict that would happen in a romance? You need to have some sort of bigger conflict. And I can just see murder as a pretty straightforward thing to just toss in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I mean, it's not I don't mind it usually. I will say though, in Summer Strike, I didn't love it.
It didn't feel
I think Amy felt the same way. But overall, I like Summer Strike. I do want to say, if you want like a super green flag, super green flag hero, there's very funny parts. And I liked like the overall message. I just could have done without like the violence.
Yeah. Whereas like When the Camellia Blooms, I don't even think that was a rom-com though. But like, no. I do think that the serial killer subplot actually, I felt like was woven into like the story essentially more. Yeah. It was more like somebody who's like a survivor continuing to like survive at all costs, but with like more of a lighthearted.
Right. No. I agree. I did like it in that.
Okay. I'll pivot to, let's see, 2 more and then we can go into some of our own. So here's an easy one. We get this every so often. Watching Reply 1988. WTF with the goat noise.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that. I forget about the goat noise until, like, I see clips and I'm like, oh, yeah, that freaking goat noise. I mean, K-dramas love their little noises. Like, sometimes it's like windshield wiper noises or, like, blinking, like, beep, beep. You know what I mean?
So, some people really just dislike it, and that's fine. That goat, I hear that goat and I'm immediately like, oh, it's a reply. I love it. I feel happy.
I know. I know. It kind of takes me back. I'm almost like nostalgic about it.
Okay, here's one I'm a little bit. So this is one I'm planning on watching, and you do not want to watch it at all. And this isn't a spoiler, but I'm just going to throw out that unpopular K-drama opinion alert. I didn't like My Liberation Notes. The male part of the couple was problematic right down to the last episode. He needed therapy and rehab, not a relationship. He screamed red flag every time I saw him.
Well, you're like, well, now I want to watch it more.
Well, yeah, exactly.
I was like, that's a selling point for you.
It is. Not that I approve of like red flag men and humanity, but I'm curious. I'm very curious. And so, again, we can't speak to this one because neither of us have seen it. But if you're at home, you might be clutching at your chest right now thinking this person's so wrong, or you might be pumping your fist saying, yes, I think so too.
So the reason I don't want to watch that, which I've said before, that writer doesn't work for me. I've watched 2 dramas with that writer and I didn't like them. And there's no point in me watching that because I know that the people who did enjoy Liberation Notes, like, loved it. Like, it was like their favorite drama of the year. And so I don't want to go in knowingly. I mean, yeah, maybe it would be nice to be surprised and I end up liking it, but I just don't really want to do that to myself. Like, there's so many things that I really, really want to watch. And I'm just not, I'm not like here to be like, this drama you loved is terrible. And I go in, you know what I mean? I don't think it's for me, but I actually do think, Leah, it's a you drama. I actually do. Just from what I've heard about it.
We will see.
Okay. Because I think it's very like slice of life.
Yeah. And so I could, yeah, definitely get behind it. So, okay. I know you have something that you want to unburden yourself with. So I actually want to give you the floor first. So I have been immersed in some K content that I just need to talk about because I need to get it off my chest. Okay. And I was going to post about this in Patreon, but then it was like too long. And it also felt really self-indulgent because I just want to like talk about, like, I wasn't actually going to post to like get feedback or like start a conversation. I just wanted to be I just want to unburden myself, which is why we're here.
So I started watching a Korean like K-pop reality show called Peak Time. And the reason, let me first say what Peak Time is, which I think is a really, really cool idea, is it's K-pop idols that have already debuted, but either their groups have disbanded or they're basically like not successful group, or not, I shouldn't say not successful. They need more publicity. Like, these are groups that just aren't selling super well, or they're like older. Like, there's a member from like the former like BAP, like BAP. And I personally think that that's just a really, really cool idea for like, we're constantly debuting these like new groups, but there's these like talented people that are working so hard, have already debuted, like, let's give them more publicity. So that's the idea of Peak Time, which I love. And I've talked before about how much I like the group Vanner. It's VANNER. So they have a song. My favorite song they do is called Form, which I've wrecked on this pod. And I still listen to it all the time. It's on every K-pop playlist I have. I love it. So I've really, really liked them, but like, they haven't really come out with new music, and I wasn't really sure where they are. Well, they're on Peak Time, and they are, I can't handle it. So they're number one on Peak Time because they have this incredible story. So it's their entertainment company. It's just them and the CEO. That's it. That's all it is.
I like that.
Yeah, and so the CEO has a part-time job. Like, he cannot fund this. He doesn't, you know what I mean? He needs to work. And these K-pop idols who are, like, they've released music, like, they've released an album. They all have part-time jobs. And so the judges were, like, interviewing them, and they're kind of, like, crying because they're like, we've been working so hard, but we have no money. We made no profit on our album. And we all work part-time jobs. Like, the one's, like, he sells tteokbokki. The other is a barista, like, which it blows my mind because I've watched these K-pop idols and I thought they were like super successful. I love them. They're super talented. And then to find out that they don't have a company behind them, really. They just have this like CEO who's like trying to help them. And the leader of the group, Taewon, he basically works like he does all these jobs as part of the entertainment company that normally like a K-pop idol wouldn't be expected to do, like advertising and things like that. And what's also interesting about him is that he was exempted from the military in a rare instance of what they call extreme financial insecurity, which basically means it's so sad. Like so his father passed away and he is the sole provider of his family. And so apparently this is like super rare to be exempted for this reason. But when you're like the sole provider of your family,
there's a K-drama actor who had this happen too. I'll see while you're talking
really?
if I can find, because I've heard about this one more time and it's from somebody we know. Like, I think it might be one of the Hospital Playlist actors.
It is. You're right. I read that. You're right. I forget. I forget which one, but
yeah, keep talking and I'll look it up fast.
Okay. So of course they're making like headlines now, which is, it makes me so freaking happy because I do love them and they're amazing on Peak Time. So like 100%, if you guys, you can watch Peak Time on Viki and it's really good. The performances are incredible because these are not trainees. Like these are all people who have debuted. So they know what they're doing. And the age of range, oh my gosh, the range of ages is pretty vast, which is kind of cool too. So I'm still going. Hold on, because I still have more unburdening. So,
okay. And I did find the person. Do you want me just to
who was it?
That in really fast? So it's Jo Jong Suk, who was our liver transplant specialist. Okay. He was in a theater department, Seoul Institute of Arts, when his father died in 2000s, and he was on loans. And his widowed mother became fully dependent on him. So he was granted an exemption from military service due to the family circumstances, and then quit school so he could start earning money.
That's the way this Taewon is, and he currently he sells tteokbokki, and then he works part-time as an idol basically. Okay, so because I watched Peak Time, then I inevitably kind of got into Boys Planet, which, do you know what Boys Planet is?
Vaguely.
Okay, so basically these are trainees and they're looking to debut. So it's like a survival reality show where they like have to sing and dance and do all this stuff. So I noticed that there was like a trainee on Boys Planet that was really familiar, and his name is Kim Ji-woong. And I was like, oh my God, he's been in BLs. Like, I know I haven't seen the BLs, but I've been meaning to. Like, two of them, he was a vampire, and then he has one that's like a contemporary BL. So I was like, I gotta see, because he's so attractive. Like, I can't explain to you that I would watch him just sitting and staring into space for like a whole drama. Like, he is absolutely stunning looking, and it's like, because like I feel like he's very unique looking too, like extremely unique. So I decided to watch Roommates of Poongduk 304, which he's in. I freaking loved it. I am like, why is no one talking about this drama? I actually messaged Allison from Afternoona Army, who's kind of like our resident BL expert, I would call her. And I was like, why did you not tell me more about this drama? And why are more people not talking about it? And she's like, no, I agree. It was really cute. Like, I really liked it. Freaking loved it. And the best part is like Kim Ji-yoon can act. Like, he's not, I was like expecting him to be really bad. I feel so bad. I totally underestimated him, but I kind of expected him to be not great because he's like just so attractive, like model-less. You know, I was like, he got the job.
Yeah, like you're the visual.
No, he's charming. He can be goofy, but yet he has charisma. He can kiss. Like, all of it. All of it was like chef's kiss. So I highly recommend Roommates of Poongduk 304. It's on Viki. It's adorable and fun and like really low angst, fluffy, just like enjoy. You know what I mean? And then one more thing. I started watching, then I went to The New Employee, which is another Korean BL. And again, freaking loved it. Low angst, adorable. It was only 7 episodes. They're 20 minutes long. Some great kissing. Like, highly, highly recommend. It was seriously delightful. And I saw a familiar face. And you want to know who was in it? Do you remember our like sad puppy from Singles Inferno 1 who followed Gia around?
He made it into something? Yes.
With like the curl, he had like curly hair at the time on the show, like that dark curly hair. And didn't he like burn himself on
the sad Disney princess. Or the sad Disney prince.
Disney prince. Yeah, he's in it. He is in it. It's so funny because he like came on screen and I'm like, where have I seen him? Oh my God, it's driving me crazy. Where have I seen him? So I went to like his wiki account and right there, it says he was in Singles Inferno 1. He looks way better. He's just like a side character. He's not a main character, but he looks fantastic. Like, he's there to be attractive. Like, that's kind of, the one character like had a crush on him in the past. He's there to be attractive, but I got so excited because I was like, oh my gosh, look at our Singles Inferno people getting roles. Like Soe in the Glory. Like, look at that.
She was good.
She was really good. Actually, and Seon he was very good as well in his role. It was just a small role. But yeah, anyway, so that's what I've just been binging Peak Time, Boys Planet, and BLs. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm supposed to be writing. I haven't been able to write because I've just been like deep diving into these shows. I know when they air.
Creative nurturing.
Yeah, it feels good. Like, I really enjoy it, but it's just been fun to like get to know some new people as well. But I can't say enough about Kim Ji-woong. He's definitely my new obsession, and Vanner on Peak Time. So, and I Boys Planet, some of the performances aren't that great because they're trainees, but if you want like amazing performances, you got to check out Peak Time.
I'm laughing because what I have to unburden myself is radically different. That's
fine.
Time of Boys Planet. And I'm like, okay, I've got something to unburden myself with. For something, we're going to just switch lanes.
That's fine. I've just been, you don't understand. I have been like meaning, I really wanted to talk about these things and tell. Yeah. I just want to tell like our listeners, like about, like, if you are a K-pop fan, check out this stuff because it's really good. And then like get on the Kim Ji-young train. I'm going to watch Kissable Lips next, which is like his vampire drama, his BL. I mean, he looks like a vampire in everyday life. Like, it makes sense to me why he's like in 2 dramas as a vampire, because he looks like one. It's just crazy. So anyway, all right, let's hear what you need to unburden yourself with.
Okay, so this is actually like a newer thing. So one of our Patreon members, shared out this article that I had to look at, and I've been thinking about it ever since I read it last night. And so it's from.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, you're right, because I know what you're going to talk about. I'm on like the boy train, and you're like, okay, let's talk about feminism.
Yeah, I was like, we're not going to keep. This is what's nice, we're going to move this all around. So we're going to go, like lowbrow, highbrow. Then look, trust me, we all know when I'm talking about taking a foot to the ankle, I can take it lowbrow. So, but yeah, our friend from the Patreon, Grace, shared this article that is from The Cut. And there's many articles about this movement, and we can put some in the show notes. But the title is A World Without Men. The women of South Korea's 4B movement aren't fighting the patriarchy. They're leaving it behind entirely. And essentially what the article talks about, and look, I am like not deeply familiar. I've read about it last night. So, I'm not going to like come at this from like a big academic, but it left an impression and it's gotten me thinking a little bit. Like, I woke up this morning thinking about it. So essentially the 4B movement is around this idea of like an idea of what would be called like so-called radical feminism, but it's 4B is shorthand for 4 Korean words that all start with B or no. So there's Bihon, which is the refusal of heterosexual marriage. There's Bichulsan, which is the refusal of childbirth. There's Bione, which is saying no to dating. and there's bisexu, which is the rejection of heterosexual sexual relationships. And so it's seen as kind of like both an ideological stance and a lifestyle choice. And how widespread it is seems to be open to to some debate of, is it a bigger movement, is it a smaller movement? And like I said, I've only read like a few articles now about it, so I can't really speak to that, and that's not important. I guess what I wanted to talk about with it that got me thinking is how I feel like, sorry if you're, so what it got me thinking about is how, I feel like I'm somebody who, as I've like continued to like grow up, have just become more aware and embracing of feminist ideals and just kind of like the insidious nature of the patriarchy. But with that being said, I also feel as if true, like good feminism is always intersectional. And so be it that I don't want to be like, a TERF, like a trans exclusive, right. So I mean, like, I feel like there's room in a sisterhood that's not like CIS, right? Like we can be a broad inclusive tent for where people who, have femme identification, I'm lumping us all in together in this. But where I do think that here we are, two Amy when she's here, 3 white women from the West talking about romance. I think that's fine. And I think that that's important. And I think it's good. And we're coming from a place of like, this is story and this is fantasy. But I never want to be in a position where I'm inadvertently peddling this idea that like women potentially in one of the countries that we're really focusing on, which is like Korean and Korean stories, might be living in this like place where they're feeling such struggle that that some people are feeling like they need to resort to these like very strong ideological stances because things feel like they're at such an imbalance. And so right. I don't want to be in this place where we're pretending like we're just going to give a hall pass to like all men in Korea because we see like Lee Dong-wook be like adorable as the Reaper, or I have like a Jimin situation with BTS and think he's like, my new Lord and Savior essentially in terms of being like an awesome, like gender fluid, magical person. And so I just want to say that like, I guess that's, so I don't have a lot, like if I was going to post this, I'm not looking to have a conversation because I don't know enough to have this conversation, but it got me thinking today of where do we have a responsibility as consumers of something and the acknowledgement that a lot of these dramas are written by women and that fantasy and kind of inviting in what we want to call in and what we want to imagine about and what we want to think is great, that doesn't always match like what's happening on the ground. And so, in the long past, we've talked about like not being like a Korea boo or not just assuming that you're going to Korea because it's this magical place where like all men are going to like cry and take you on like a claw machine date. But I guess, and I don't think people really think I think that, but I guess I was right. just trying to be like, where do we have some maybe responsibility, I guess, to like even showcase some people who have some lived experiences dealing with some of these things and giving them platform and using our space to kind of like make this a bigger tent and make sure that, we're hearing perspectives too. I just don't want to be like idealizing romance so much in another country where some people might be feeling it so heavily and we're not like acknowledging that essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that. I would say, obviously, when we started this podcast and when we started as fans of K-drama, it was fans, at least I can speak for me, but I do think I speak for you and Amy too.
I think you are, yeah.
Yeah, we were fans of the way these dramas were written. So I never was like, oh, I'm a fan of the dating scene in Korea. Like, correct. I want to, yeah, like, I want to separate that fantasy space as well. Because I'm a fan of how they write their stories, but I fully acknowledge that this is not reality for people, kind of for women, mostly anywhere. I mean, yeah, and certainly, yeah, I do want to acknowledge that these aren't always lived experiences. We're just happy with how the K-drama industry writes romances. And there are some things about Korean culture that I think can lend themselves to a really romantic story. But again, these are stories. And these are, just like how you can take Western culture and twist it into, a fantastic romance. I think that that's the same way with K-dramas, right? And is what I'm saying makes sense. I understand that it's fantasy, and I'm coming at it from a writer and creative point of view, not, oh my God, if I go to Korea, it's going to be like this, because no.
Right. And just like we're not going to say, like, okay, like, let's look at some of our classic rom-coms, like Pretty Woman.
Right?
So that's an amazing story. Like, I love it. It's so fun. It's so fun that when I went to LA recently, I like went to the hotel that like was like the Pretty Woman hotel just to like have a drink like at the bar there. So I was like, oh, it's the Pretty Woman hotel.
I want to go in the bathtub there. And, she's like in the bathtub.
Yes. And do I have a respect for like sex work and the sex work industry? Also correct. But do I think that like, would I say that like, if somebody is like in a other part of the world looking at us being like, look, in America, you can be a sex worker and then a billionaire is going to like pick you up, fall in love with you, but you're also just folks who can drive a car, like it's like, look, obviously this isn't real. So don't like be like, man, I need to come to America and find my own Richard Gere. So I'm like, they don't exist. So it's the same. It's the same.
It is. That's what I'm saying. But that's what romance and fantasy is. But it's still often, well, I don't know. I think Western media still needs to come a long way when it comes to romance, and how it's written. But again, that's kind of why I like K-dramas, because they allow a lot of female writers or female presenting writers in that space who are just killing it.
Yeah. And I definitely think that like I'm very happy we're past the point where, in my younger adult times, and we've talked about this in the pod too, but not for a while, of like where I feel like Asian men, and I think this still happens, but in Western media, if you were going to see an Asian character, Asian male character, they were not going to be presented in a way that was remotely sexy. They were going to be presented in a way that was coded to be, just pure racism from the terms of like accent and word pronunciation, and also just kind of like sexless, neutered males, basically. So I do.
Asian women have been treated terribly by Western media, and like, oh my God, I just think about like 80s movies, and like when like the war movies, like when anything about Korea, Japan, Vietnam, oh my God, the way we treated Asian females in those movies is,
well, we hypersexualize women. I feel like women have been hypersexualized and men have been completely neutered. And that's a whole other bigger conversation. But so do I think it's good to then be like, actually, like, there's tasty snacks in all races and we should like be celebrating that. And we shouldn't also like swing the pendulum so far that now we're like, pretending like I don't want to other and be like, there's like, there's no sexiness here and no like interest and you're just two dimensional. But if we swing the pendulum too far the other direction, then we're like idealizing, and you can other in idealizing too. And so I just want to always make sure that like, if you're listening at home too, like, let's just approach this as it should be, which is fun and imagination, but like we're not going to bring this into like the reality of our dating lives.
Right. Correct. And you know what? I think this kind of leads into it. I kind of want to talk about RM, the leader of BTS. He did an interview recently where he talks about the work ethic of Korea and kind of what he thinks about like outside criticism of it. And just knowing that we have talked a little bit on the pod, like when we've watched dramas or heard stories about like real life stories about, Korean students like just studying like all hours or the work hours of, Korean business people. And I thought RM had a really interesting response, and I'm definitely paraphrasing. So let me know, Leah, if you don't think I paraphrased this properly, but he's basically like, as an outsider, I guess you can criticize it, but you just see us now. So like, yes, we work really hard, but that's because 70 years ago we like weren't a country. Like we've had to overcome so much. So go ahead and like criticize it, but look where we are. Like, look how much we've accomplished. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm gonna actually pull up the whole thing because
Yeah.
like that is it to a point, but it's not like I feel like let's see.
He says more than that. But it made me think when I read that, I was like, yeah, I've definitely been slightly, I don't know, I guess judgmental when I see, how maybe like, yeah, the Korean work ethic, not judgmental. I've definitely been like, wow, that's really harsh. Why do they have to work so hard or something like that? And I felt taken to task in a appropriately by RM's comments. I was like, you're right. That's not my place to
Critique a society's work
critique.
ethic.
Yeah, to critique from a Western point of view as a white woman living in the West. It's not my job or my place at all to critique that sort of work ethic and what they had to do to build Korea to the country it is now.
Yeah, and I think that the country itself can like have its own internal dialogue about that. But like you said, so here, like there's this idea, like the question that he was given was that cult of youth, of perfection, of overexertion in K-pop, are they Korean traits? And he says, in the West, people just don't get it. Korea is a country that has been invaded, raised, split in two. Only 70 years ago, there was nothing. We received help from the IMF and the UN, but now the whole world is looking at Korea. How is it possible? How did it happen? Because people worked fucking hard to improve. You are in France or the UK, countries that have been colonizing others for centuries, and you come to me with, oh my gosh, you put so much pressure on yourselves, like Korea is so stressful. Well, yes, this is how things are achieved. And that's part of what makes K-pop so appealing. Although, of course, there are shadows. Everything that happens very quickly and very intensely has side effects. So I like this because I think he's just kind of like called it out pretty clearly. And honestly, I am here for him calling out the West anytime he feels like it, because the West always needs calling out.
Yeah, well, he's basically like, fuck you, colonizers.
Yeah, and like here you are sitting here being like, well, don't you have to work really hard to like, why are you working so hard? And it's like,
why are you working so hard?
Well,
we didn't like steal from other countries for centuries.
Yeah, and also, I mean, part of the reason that, there's many reasons why Korea has been split into the North and South, but the reason that there's a split right at the 38th parallel is because Americans sitting in Washington, D.C., who had like no idea, probably even like never heard the word Joseon. I believe some had no idea even how to find it on a map if like the stories are true. We're like, how are we going to split this? We're not going to look at geography. We're not going to look at anything that makes sense. We're not even going to discuss if we should split it in the first place. But we're going to look at this neat little parallel and be like, this is here, like boom, done, solved it, moving on to like the next problem of our like post-World War II situation.
And that is what happened. Like, look up history, man.
Yeah, so it'd be like going into like Pennsylvania and being like, let's just find like where one of the longitude lines are. Is it latitude? And then like, that's it. And so, yeah, I think fair. And again, the fact that we should always just be aware, because we all just do it too, especially if you're white in the West. Like, you're just like innately going to other people because we have been shown that our viewpoints are the dominant viewpoints. And so even if we don't want to hold those views, and even if we don't want to be those people, we have to like recognize that like unconsciously, since we were born, that has been given to us. And so that's nothing to like, I don't want to like shame people and be like, so then we're trash. But it's like, when we're like, white people do better, like we got to do better. And we got to like think about like, where do we have all this unconscious bias and superiority and ideas that we can like look at other places and be like, well, why do you do it that
I mean,
way?
I love his I love his whole interview. But I mean, it's like just because of the content we consume, like I want to separate the fantasy from the reality, but then I also want to respect what place that fantasy is coming from. Like, I want to respect the place that those writers are coming from when they tell a story. And so in order to do that, I do think I need to understand the country a little bit. And So that's why I don't know. I liked RM's whole interview. But I think I took what he said, not personal, but I internalized that, and I was like, yeah, I need to do better.
Yeah. And I think that I've given myself a little bit bigger permission than maybe I feel like is warranted to say, oh, well, we're in a place where we're talking about story structure and, romance. And I feel like that's a good lane for us to be in. Like, we should stay in that lane. But I do think that as much as we can moving forward, we should also acknowledge that, like, we have a platform that is growing. I mean, like, we are a niche podcast. But I do think that where it's not our job to like come in and then like, present the critique, but what we can continue to look to do in the future is open up our pod and like our networks to let other people share some more of their stories that like are more their stories to tell and more their lane to be in. And so I think that that's something that would be continuing. Like, that's something I think that we are all kind of talking about as we move forward, is having time sometimes for other folks to talk more about some of these things, not like us with all the caveats, but being able to be like, this is my opinion because this is where I am.
Yeah. Well, speaking of growing, this was funny because we got an email this week from from like a law, like we have all known, her name's Amy Jo. We have known her for a very long time. She is a fellow author. She writes stunning emotional gay romance, by the way, if you want to check her out. And she sent us an email because she's like, oh, I was talking to like a coworker about K-dramas and C-dramas, and her coworker's like, oh, basically, you should check out this podcast, The Afternoonas. And Amy's like,
because romance writers do it. Like, there's romance writers.
Yeah, she's like, romance writers do it. And Amy's like, oh, well, like, I know some romance writers. Let me see. And she's like, I know these women. I know all of them. And like, yeah, I've met Amy Jo in person, like, several times. Like, I would consider her a friend. And so she sent us this email with a picture of her coworker, whose name is Allie. So shout out to Allie. And I guess Allie's mom listens to us too. So hi, Allie's mom. But it was a really sweet email. Thank you, Amy Jo, for sending it to us, because it made us all very happy. I mean, it really made my week to get that email. Just to see, like, I don't know, that there's like connections being made like that.
Yeah, I like that there's connections being made. And then it was particularly nice to hear from this person, simply because I feel like they've always just felt really cool to me.
Amy Jo?
So, yeah.
She is.
So
she's like the cool, she's like, so cool.
If there's like the cool person like at the table that you're like, you have just like, like a interesting ways that you look at the world. I really identify with them. Like, kind of like, who do I want to be when I grow up kind of vibes. I was like, so it just felt extra awesome to hear from them under that lens.
Oh, absolutely. I love Amy Jo. And like I said, I've met her in person. She's awesome. So it was really good to hear. Oh, actually, no, she does write as Amy Jo Cousins.
Okay.
So she has a series that I really like called Bend or Break. The first book is called Off Campus. I do recommend that. I recommend all her books, but if you're looking for really great kind of like emotional gay romance, she writes it. So anyway, thank you, Amy.
Oh yeah, I also wanted to call out one that I read of hers that was super hot. And I don't think that she did more with it, but it was called Callie Unwrapped. And it was wild and dirty.
Yes. I never read that one, but I've read a bunch of hers, but I think I didn't read that one.
Yeah. And I think I have a thing for this is more than anyone probably needs to know about me, but I have a thing for when people put fingers into mouths. I think it's hot.
Oh,
and so I think the
too.
cover of that book, if I can remember right, the cover of that book has like a woman's mouth and then like somebody putting fingers into it. I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, because actually, let me say, Amy Jo writes I shouldn't say she writes gay romance, because she writes kind of a range of LG. Yeah, she writes queer romance. So actually, let me see, because I think
here's the cover. I'll put this in the show
notes.
Oh,
it's so hot. I forgot this one.
It's the hand with the mouth. So I read this. It was really good.
I forgot.
And then in The Handmaiden, which I keep shilling and will do, there's like a scene where like one of the women has like a toothache kind of, and she's in the bathtub, and it's kind of like an iconic scene from like when they show stills of it. And so Kim Tae-ree's character, like she's like, put your hand in my mouth to Kim Tae-ree so like you can like manipulate my tooth. And so you just see this woman in this position of like passivity in the tub with her mouth open, and then like Kim Tae-ree like putting her finger in her mouth, and it's hot. And so I don't know what it is. So look, I'm I'm not really in real life a toe sucker, but apparently I do like fingers. Apparently I like fingers. Fingers and mouths are hot. You can put that as a quote. Fingers in mouths are hot. Dash Leah Riley.
Actually, did you know that she wrote like a sequel to Callie Unwrapped? It's called Callie Unleashed.
No, I need to read it then, because I read that one and then nothing. I remember like there wasn't anything else to read. So it looks like it's a 3-parter.
Oh, there's 3 parts?
It's called Play It Again, the Play It Again series. Oh yeah, we have Callie Unwrapped, Callie Unleashed, and then Kate Unexpected. My dog, listen to him. My dog just was like, I want to get in on this too.
Yeah, your dog.
And you know what?
Your dog's like, I like fingers.
Time too, because like I said, I've been feeling like because the market just gives way more like BL type stories in like, either Thai or Korea or Japan. Like I have been seeking more kind of like sapphic stories too, just to kind of like round out like the things I'm reading. So I'm like, I guess I know what I'm reading this weekend. I needed a book. I just finished a book. And so now I'm going to like dive into some sexy queer erotica. Thank you, Amy Jo Cousins.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm still on her newsletter list, so I still get her newsletters. But yeah, that was just, I don't know, man. I love that email. And I also love how we went from like talking about feminism and like Korean work ethic to like back to toe sucking.
Fingers and mouth. Fingers and mouths are hot. Always hot.
Always.
They're never, well, no. I mean, like some fingers might not be hot, but like pick a good, I'm a mess. Do you want me to be really gross?
Go ahead. I mean, it's Friday. Do what you want.
Amy's not here. So, nobody's surprised to know that my ultimate bias in like the world, but also in BTS, is Min Yoongi or Suga or August.
I know where you're going.
And his folio, like they all did like a pictorial folio. Yeah. And so his folio released on his birthday. He was the last one to go, March 9th. I don't have it in my hot little hands yet. It's en route. It says it's going to come in like April because Weverse fucking sucks. So, but when it dropped, like many spoiler photos were out all over the place. And first of all, I nerdily saw that he was in Lone Pine shooting this. And Lone Pine is a small town in California that I've been to. And I was so over the moon and thrilled when I saw, it's like a very small town. If you are from the Owens Valley, I am not trying to minimize it. I don't want to say it's podunk. It's beautiful. It's a very tiny little town. Anyway, I saw that it was in Lone Pine, and I knew somebody who was from a town right next to it. And I wrote them like, oh my God, this person I really like went and took photos in Lone Pine. And they wrote back and they said, okay, that's interesting. And I was like, wait, why did I even write this? Like, I need to not talk to civilians like a crazy person. It was like
civilians.
It was a good reminder to be like, if you're not Army, like don't make them know what's happening. So all of you at home that aren't Army, I apologize, because
you can tell
you are civilians. No, but these are civilians listening at home.
Calling them civilians is the funniest thing ever. Okay.
So in these like spoiler photos that have gone out, there's a hand picture. And if you look carefully at the hand, just because you've got some time, you're going to notice a few things. One, you're going to notice that he clips his own nails, and that's hot. Like those are not.
Wait, how do you know?
Fingernails.
Oh, they're clearly...
Because no manicure is doing that. Oh. Like, that looks like somebody sat on their couch with, like, nail clippers and, like...
Like, mine look right now.
Like, they're all, short. Like, they're short and handle, but they're a little choppy, and, like, there's a little bit of, like... It's not a clean... It's not... If you paid for that, you've got problems. Like,
Stop.
No. But then beyond that, he's got, like, little furry knuckles. And when I say it undid me, it undid me. And I don't know what it is, because you know what? We all have our things. And back in like Jane Austen's time, you see a little flasher wrist and you were like, boing, boner alley. I see some little furry knuckles and I'm like,
yeah,
I got a finger thing. I'm sorry. Hashtag finger kink.
No, it's okay. You sent me the picture, but I was really confused because I was like, what
I don't
am
think I
looking
gave
at?
context.
You didn't. You're just like, I'm really into the fingers. I'm like, what? And I didn't like scroll up and see the picture, and then you're like, there's hair on them. And I thought you had a typo. I was like, because I was like, what are you trying to say?
With no context.
And you're like, no, I'm actually... And you're like, no, I'm actually talking about hairy fingers. I was like, what?
And saying, we're not talking about like obscenely hairy fingers. We're not talking about like Sasquatch hands.
I looked, it's like, they're about as hairy as mine. So I was like, oh, okay, Leah. But no, I feel, I respect it. I'm not judging. Like, good for you. Like, I'm glad that photo brought you immense joy. Like,
Yes. And I'm going to unburden myself with one other thing before we get back to it. And this is just because we were talking about Amy Jo Cousins. And it just brought me back to a time of when I met you and Amy. And I'm just telling this because it's a gross story and Amy would not approve. That's the only reason I'm telling this story. So when we were, this has nothing to do with K-drama. This has to do with writing.
Okay.
When we were getting ready to come out in the world as baby authors.
Right.
We formed a little group. This is how we met, actually. And there was like a Facebook group, and it was like 2014 debut authors. And it was like little private group.
Yes, it was like NA 14 debuts or
new adult writers or whatever. And we were all in this group together.
Feels so long ago.
Like from January to December, like everyone's book was going to come out that year. We were all brand new. And there was maybe like 15 of us in the group or something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how it became the convention. I really don't. But when your book was ready to release, the way we would celebrate you in the group was to say, it's time to bring out the buckets of Bigfoot cum.
Oh my God, we did why did we do that?
And then we would just post pictures of Bigfoot and
why did we do that?
I think because Moan for Bigfoot had come out at that time, which was a romance. I don't even know if it was a very short erotic novel that kind of got traction for being bonkers.
It went viral and did really well. And then we all were like trying to wish each other the same success.
Success is Moan for Bigfoot. Yeah, because it was like a 20-page story about a woman that essentially just like kind of gets like non-con trapped by Bigfoot. And there was like and basically it was disgusting. And they talked about like, his genitalia as having like being like extra squishy. Like I remember there was like a lot like that was like there was nothing good. And then when Bigfoot would like get off, it would just apparently like paint the cave. Just everything would be dripping. And I don't know why that became the convention, but I just, as I was talking about this other thing, I was like, I just had to just like, it was my intrusive thought that needed to come out of, do you remember when we would celebrate our successes by being like, it's time to bring out the Bigfoot cum. And then we would just
I forgot about it till just now. How did I block that out?
Well, it's not like delicious.
I don't know why did we do? Oh my God, that's so funny.
So
I'm so glad
this
you brought
entire
that
year,
up.
every time somebody's book came out, that was how we celebrated them. And that was how we met, was being in that group.
I really think we need to bring that back. I want to continually wish people buckets of Bigfoot cum.
Yeah. And it was just such a nice thing because, you knew that like somebody's book was coming out like in March and my book I think was coming out in like August or something. So it'd be like, you get so excited, see somebody come out and like, yeah. And then just that was your day to just get a whole bunch of pictures of like milk, just like,
yes.
There's lots of gifs of milk for some reason.
Oh my God. Oh, that was so funny. That was a good group.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of
back to K-dramas.
Bigfoot. No.
I'm so sorry.
No, speaking of K-pop, let's do the K-pop rec of the week. And Leah, why don't you take this one this week?
Okay.
Because something big happened
last night.
Okay.
So
yeah, which I was I watched this at like 1 a.m.
You did. I was so actually happy to hear from you at that point because I was in my feelings. So
Yeah.
Park Jimin, who is on the vocal line of BTS and seen as kind of like one of the two primary dancers, was classically trained, went to like an arts high school and things. He is coming out with the third solo album that is happening in this like hiatus-y period of BTS. So we had like J-Hope come out with his first efforts. Then we had RM come out with Indigo back in, I think, December. And now we have Park Jimin coming out with this album. I think it's like 5 or 6 songs, and it's called Face, and it's going to release next week. And the first song from the album dropped last night at midnight East Coast time. And I was trying to think, because I was agitated before it dropped. And I was trying to think, like, why am I so agitated? Like, I've seen lots of comebacks for K-pop. And this one, I was actually, like, having, like, an elevated heart rate. Like, when you just get, like, hyper anxious. And I was like, why am I feeling so anxious? And it's because I wanted it to be so good. Because I really love Park Jimin so much. I think that he is just, like, beautiful and sweet and nice. And I feel like sometimes he gets like one-dimensional for that, of like, you're just like the sweet, nice guy. Or there can be like a lot of social media stuff that shows him to be kind of like diva-ish, which is where when I like 2 or 3 years ago when I first was getting into like BTS, that was kind of, I'd be like, well, he's got like that face that can kind of like smolder on stage. He's kind of like the big diva. And the truth is, he is many of these things. He's just a multifaceted, really fascinating, huge worker who I think, even though he gets a lot of hype and is really popular, I think can be like underrated for like his creativity and his desire to reach. So I was like, please just let this be amazing. Like, I just really want this to like kick ass and not be something that the world is like, yeah, it was good. Like, good for him being like on his own. And he came out with the song Set Me Free Part 2, which he has acknowledged is a very loose connection to Set Me Free from August D or Suga's mixtape, which is called D2, which is a very acoustic, simple melody and kind of melancholic. And then you move into this, and I don't even know what you would call the intro to this. It's like gothic, fucking like, like you feel like you're about to go into like some sort of like Phantom of the Opera, like wildness, essentially. Just like,
yeah, there's like no music. Bright colors.
Yeah.
There's no bright colors, really. It's like dark. And to be honest, there isn't even like, well, I was surprised too. There wasn't like, I thought there was just gonna be like this focus on Jimin's face.
Yeah,
like that's his, like the album is called Face, and so I thought it was just going to be like showing off how pretty he was. Which again, joke's on me. Like I underestimated him. Instead, I got like this masterpiece. That's what I call it.
And essentially, like the song is kind of like a meditation of like kind of like set me free of essentially like breaking through barriers, becoming like this whole person, kind of like, and also like dropping some fuck bombs, which isn't really like on brand for Jimin. Like, like other like the rap line often is like, getting intense, especially Suga and RM like are happy to be like, fuck this, fuck that. Whereas like Jimin, not so much, is really like showing up publicly like that. But he was basically just kind of like fucking set me free. And in this like swarm of people in this like very stark space, created something that I think musically was really surprising, pushed his voice into different directions, went way deeper than I've heard him go, except for when he's kind of like doing like a growly singing. And yes, there's auto-tune that was happening, but it was done creatively. And so the whole thing, I think, just ended up feeling interesting, and it is highly listenable. Like, I'll definitely listen to it, but it wasn't like a bop, like one of those things that just kind of like, it's not like butter, right? And that's good. Like, we don't want it to be. Like, don't be. So it's not this like, Jimin, they didn't make this thing that's like, here's this very sweet, hooky, like, top 40 sound that's just going to like get everyone's earworm in, and you're going to make like your McDonald's meal and get out. This was art.
This was art. And I also obviously read the lyrics as I'm listening to the song, and I felt like the lyrics were really inspiring to me. I think that there are a lot of people that can find individual meanings in the lyrics, like for themselves. Like the lyrics were so good, but yet also kind of universal, but in a way that you would take personally. I
think
really
that's
loved
good.
it.
They were universal. Like, I don't think it was a deeply it was interesting because it was confessional, but it wasn't like a deeply confessional personal song where you're just making these like inside references to like things of your own lived experience. I felt like it hit a universal.
Correct. Yeah. But I still felt like, I mean, I really love the lyric that's like, I'm going insane to stay sane. Or
which is a nod
like,
from On. Yeah, it comes from On. That's I'm not trying to actually.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But it's
okay.
Their song On that's on Map of the Soul 7. That was a line from that. So they actually like he pulled from that one.
I love it. Well, I mean, I was really impressed with it. I loved it, and I as someone who's like not like full Army, like I totally underestimated him, and that's my fault. And I'm glad he was like, well, I'm going to blow away your expectations.
Yeah. So I say watch it. Just if you're not even into watch it. It's interesting and fun. And then just really quickly at the end, he's wearing kind of like a see-through shirt. Like at first I think we all thought he was like painted, but it's a shirt with printing on it that's see-through. So it looks like he's been drawn on. And what the shirt is from is words from Rilke. And it's written in German, and I'm just going to read the 2 paragraphs because I think that they're beautiful. So it's, I live my life in widening circles that reach out across the world. I may not ever complete the last one, but I give myself to it. I circle around God, that primordial tower. I've been circling for thousands of years, and I still don't know. Am I a falcon, a storm, or a great song? And look, in K-pop, sometimes we see people wear clothing where people make a big deal about like, oh, they're wearing clothing of something. And we're like, you're like drawing correlation. Like they don't know what they're wearing. Stylist gave them something to wear. This isn't that. This isn't that. This is like everything was being connected thematically in this video. He wasn't just wearing a shirt to wear a shirt. Like, thought had been put behind it, like the whole thing. And so it all kind of packs in and builds on a theme. And that idea of the widening concentric circles of stuff is like literally the cover of the album Face that's releasing next week, which is like those drops of water and what happens when water drops. And then you see like those rings spreading out. So beautiful. I love it so much. Check it out. It's Park Jimin's Set Me Free Part 2. And I also really recommend going back and listening to Auguste's Set Me Free. It's very short and completely different sounding. But when you listen to them side by side, they're actually a really cool transition to listen to one and then the other.
I was up last night, first watching the new employee, the Korean BL that I said is fantastic. And then, of course, it's like 1 a.m. and Boys Planet was like, they go live essentially on YouTube. I don't even know I was watching it. It was like, there's no subtitles. I have no idea what is happening. And
oh my God, you're just watching.
Why am I awake? I was just,
That's so funny.
Watching. And they're all, oh my God. I mean, one is like 15. Of course, another's like 30. But I mean, like, why am I watching this? And then just because I don't really know what's going on. And also, it's like a live broadcast. So it was like, obviously not like edited, whatever. And then I went over to Instagram and you messaged me. And I was like, oh shit. I don't know. Like, I guess I got my dates wrong and I didn't realize when he was releasing it. So I watched it at like 1 a.m. and I'm just like lying in bed with like my jaw dropped while my husband is snoring next to me watching this video.
That's hilarious.
And I loved it.
Yeah, well, thank you for being there to talk to me about it. I appreciate it. If you enjoy our podcast, you have our patrons to thank, at least in part. Afternoona Delight Patreon allows us to keep creating content for y'all to enjoy. Thank you so much to everyone who is supporting us there. And not to brag, but our Patreon community is pretty awesome. And you can join at a tier that feels good to you. Gain access to fun perks like K-drama posts, monthly Patreon-only bonus podcasts, and even a live K-drama support group on Zoom. Because we know firsthand what it's like to have no one to talk to about those crazy plot twists, amazing characters, and all those feelings. And look, no one should have to walk that walk alone. So learn more by visiting afternoonadelight.com. That's www.afternoonadelight.com. And hey, while you're on the website, you can check out Afternoona Delight podcast merch, find links to book recommendations, bop along to our K-pop Rex, glow up your skin with K-merch Rex, find all of our social media, and a link to our email so you can send us recommendations or feedback. And hey, while you're at it, why don't you pop over to Spotify or Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review? It really helps with our discoverability. Kamsahamnida.
So what kinds of things do you both like to do when you drive?
Pay attention to the road? Is this a trick question?
All right, how about when you fold laundry?
Why am I folding laundry in this scenario?
Read, friends. I was trying to get you to say read.
You could just ask us if we like to read when we drive, or... Wait, how are you reading when you're driving?
With Audible. You know, our sponsor, who is the leading creator and provider of premium audio storytelling, enriching the lives of millions of listeners every day. I listen to audiobooks on my commute to work, in the car.
Oh yeah, I totally do that. I love my Audible subscription.
Then why'd you leave me hanging with the whole driving thing? Forget it. It's not important. What is important is that now our listeners can get a 30-day free trial of Audible Premium Plus from Afternoona Delight. Do you know what they get with that free trial?
Actually, I do. They get 1 audiobook credit, 2 if they are Prime members, which is good for any premium selection, and they get to keep that audiobook.
They also get the whole Audible Plus catalog of podcasts like Afternoona Delight, audiobooks, guided wellness, and Audible originals.
And with the Plus catalog, you can listen all you want, no credits needed.
And Audible sends you a reminder email before your trial ends.
Sounds like a great way to spend 30 days to me, especially if you're heading outside for a walk, have a long commute to work, or just want to hear one of many talented narrators really bring your book to life. All you have to do is go to www.audibletrial.com/afternoona to sign up, and you're ready to download your first listen. Enjoy!
As we start to move to wrap up, let's do a couple more of the Unburden Yourselves from Patreons responding to it.
Yeah, let's do it.
So here's one. Look, I'm not trying to call this person out, but you know, sometimes when you have a thought that's a personal affront, look, I respect you. I respect you, listener. So,
oh God, what's this one?
And I mean this in good fun. Like, I really do. I'm not gonna okay. I'm watching Flower of Evil, and I like it, but it's so slow. Reminds me of Tale of the Nine Tails. Took forever to get through. Anyone else finds certain dramas like that? Others I can binge. And I find that funny because for me personally, like, so look, they're not like this drama shit. I hate it. But what's funny is Flower of Evil and Tale of the Nine Tail, I inhaled. Me like too. A Chinese lantern that I was like...
I huffed the shit out of both of those. Flower of Evil, I could not... I didn't think it was slow at all. Oh,
and then somebody else... But here, somebody else
That's
responded,
fair.
I could not manage more than 1 Flower of Evil per night, even though I thought it was terrific. Perhaps it was the dread that slowed me down. Or that idea, like, it's just... Yeah, because it's a heavy drama. So I can get also not... Like, I'm just going to jump into, like, cage murder.
Oh, I mean, it's, and there is kind of like, this sense of like impending doom that is kind of when you're watching Flower of Evil, because you, I guess.
Okay, here's one that I need to go back to because I hit pause to finish The Glory, and that's Rain or Shine, or Just Between Lovers. So here's just a 1-sentence comment that I know you've just finished this drama and really liked it.
I loved it.
So I love Lee Jun-ho in Rain or Shine, but I find the female lead very flat.
Oh, I don't agree, but I understand, but I don't agree. I'll just I really want to cover Rain or Shine. It was it was so good. But I will say it was Lee Jun-ho's drama. Like, it was him, and everyone else was just circling him. I think the female lead did a great job keeping up with him. I'm not sure, like, I just
in the comments to this statement. In the comments to this statement, there's about 3 others where people felt like the female lead was just so. So I'll say I'm only 3 or 4 episodes in, and I am not feeling. I'm enjoying her. So we're gonna do this as a podcast, so we'll be unpacking that.
Yeah, I mean, was she the most impactful lead I've ever met? Absolutely not. But I liked her opposite him. Again, it is her story, but it's mostly his story. And so I just kind of always had that in the back of my mind. I'm like, this is pretty much his story. And I told you he has a sad shower. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, fingers and mouths and sad showers. I should just get a t-shirt of all the things I like in a drama.
Fingers, mouths, and sad showers. Yeah, I mean, I'm all like, a sad shower is my favorite thing. Just there's a sad shower in the New Employee. Was it the New Employee? Or was it one of the BLs I just watched? There was a sad shower. Oh, this was actually really funny. Speaking of showers, sorry, I just have to say this. So in the Roommates of Poongduck 304, it was so funny. So the drama starts out as this is a spoiler because it's like the first episode, but basically the chaebol who is played by Kim Ji-young, which he looks like a chaebol. Like I don't. You gotta have him play chaebol forever. Anyway, he has to find a new place to live, and the real estate agent keeps taking him to all these places, and he refuses them because he doesn't like the water pressure. He has to find an apartment with good water pressure. And once he finds an apartment with good water pressure, he's like, this is where I'm staying. And the first thing he does is take a shower. And it's just, I don't know. I just love that he had this weird thing about water pressure. It just felt really charming. And I also have a thing for water pressure. So I guess I just related to him.
That's really funny. Okay.
It was so cute.
I've got two. Okay, here's one that I think we are in hard agreement. Well, I think I'm in agreement with. I think you are too, which is I'm completely over recent K-dramas being split into two parts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't get it.
I mean, it just kind of like milks it, I guess. I'm wondering, so I'm curious, is it that it's the anticipatory need, or, I mean, and this is something we could just do some research and find, is it like the production schedule is such that they had to adjust, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it's the idea is that they've shot it all, because the other thing is, I don't know, I'm just making the assumption that these are the dramas that are like written up completely and then shot and produced. Like, The Glory didn't feel like it was being written on the fly.
Oh, there's no way. So I don't like it. Like, I do not like the two-parter from a viewer point of view at all. I will say though, I get why they do it. Because I feel like with The Glory, one of the reasons it kind of became as popular as it did is because people were like anticipating part 2. And there was like a whole month or two where people watched the first one, had all this time to like meme it, because there were tons of memes about The Glory. Like, it was always all over my Instagram and stuff. So it built up all this anticipation for part 2, and part of me wonders if like that's one of the reasons it did so well. You know? Yeah. I don't know, but I don't like it. From my point of view, I'm like, no, just give me, like, that's one of the reasons I love K-dramas so much. Because I can like binge from like beginning to end. Like, that's what I want to do. And I don't want like a month break.
Speaking of Kim Un-suk dramas, we had another listener say, I'm coming to realize I'm very picky about HEAs. As in, I'm not really a fan of Happy for Now or some other ambiguous endings. I want the unrealistic, together for all eternity type of endings, which means I end up being kind of so-so on some very popular K-dramas, like the Kim Un-suk. Kim Un-suk tends to end things, I feel like, generally on an ambiguous ending.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so Goblin.
We don't want to like we won't spoil it, but I'll say like I can't think. I guess Airs.
So
ended.
Goblin, Mr. Sunshine, and The Glory. What else? I didn't see Descendants of the Sun. What else was there?
I felt like Descendants of the Sun felt like it wrapped up to me. Airs, I feel like wrapped up the main couple, but we had like the very popular Kim Woo-bin second male lead who kind of ended a little bit more like I mean, like, I think it ended in a conventional romance way where there was an HEA that you can have for high school, I guess. Like, you know, I'm not sure.
I mean, but true.
Yeah, HEA.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. And I think that that's okay to just be like, look, that's one thing I actually do love about K-dramas is I do think it like teaches you like what you want. There's just so much content that you can like watch a lot of dramas and you can be like, okay, well, this is what I want. And yeah, I want that unrealistic ending that's The King.
King is
Wasn't that Kim Un-suk?
Yeah.
That was Kim Moon-suk, and that
Yes,
had
it
kind of a little bit of an ambiguous ending. So
yeah, I mean, I would say they're happy,
I get it.
They're happy for now, or happy-ish, except for Mr. Sunshine is not happy. But there's an uplifting. They end on an uplifting.
Yeah. And Crash Landing on You obviously was a big debate on whether people thought
not
that
Kim
was
Moon-sik,
happily
but
ever after.
yes.
Yeah,
And
that was not Kim Moon-suk, but yeah.
But yeah, no, just that idea of, and I mean, like, this is where, again, when you're consuming romantic commercial entertainment, you're in such a position of choice as the consumer, because if you want to have that hardcore ending that's like, you are married, it's all good, like, especially like in romance novels, like, there's a whole bunch of books that are going to give you that epilogue with like the wedding or the baby, and like you're going to see the whole thing. And
you're going to get every mushy happily ever after moment.
Yeah, which good if that's what you want. And then if you're more okay with kind of like a vague ending, I mean, like, then we've got something like Moon Lovers, which just ends without any resolution, really. And I mean, so for me, I can live with that. I do like sometimes to have that like big finale, like, oh, all the like everything came together. But I think I'm pretty comfortable with a happy for now, or it's open and I'm not quite sure. Like a lot of people had with Love Between Fairy and Devil wanted a more, like, to me, I felt like that was an HEA.
Yeah, no, I was happy.
Whereas other people were like, I wanted to see more. I've invested however many episodes, I want a bigger payoff than what I'm getting.
I mean, fair. I don't know. I'm okay. I will say, like, reading, I don't know, for some reason, reading romance books is a different thing. I need a very, very clear cut HEA when I read. I don't know why. Maybe because it's like all in my imagination more. Like I'm picturing these characters and maybe I just feel, because of that, I feel like more ownership of them or something. But I guess when I'm watching a K-drama, I'm like kind of okay with it. And then I'll go watch that actor in something else. And it like works for me. I don't know how to explain it. So sometimes I feel like I feel a little bit differently about K-dramas. But I mean, I still prefer, it depends. If you give me like a completely tragic ending, I'm probably gonna avoid it. I'm talking like tragedy.
Yeah, no. I mean, I don't
not just a happy for now. Like if it's tragic, I will probably because there's like some K-dramas that I would love to see, but I have heard they end completely tragically, and I'm just like, I can't do it.
Yeah, it just depends, because I mean, like, yeah, Mr. Sunshine, does it end tragically to a point? Yes, but then we have to, that's a whole conversation in another podcast with a lot of spoilers on what does tragedy mean, because I would argue there's like this idea of tragic, but then I go back to like what we talked about before with like RM and like the views of like the West, to like, it's a story of endurance, and it's a story of sacrifice, and it's a story of like a country and people engaging with their country.
True. And the thing is, obviously for me, Mr. Sunshine, I didn't go in being like, I'm going to get this epic romance. Like that wasn't what I thought I was getting. Mm-hmm. And so I was okay with that. I think it's when you promise me with promo and the lead up, if you're trying to sell me a romance, I'm going to want a pure romance. Like in The Glory, they didn't try to sell a romance. And I'm not giving anything away. I'm just saying
Yeah, we can talk about that, because I have a lot of feelings in the romance.
True, but I just mean they never told me this is a romance. And so I wasn't expecting really anything.
See, I felt like we spent way too much time on what I felt to be a romance that didn't need to be.
Oh, yeah, I actually didn't. I can't wait to talk about that.
Yeah, we'll debate that later. Yeah. But Crash Landing on You, I think, as an example, is I wanted a lot of different things to happen in Crash Landing on You, but I think ultimately for me, the end is like one of my least quibbles if I was going to critique it, because I feel like they ended it kind of like one of the only ways you can end it, because we're dealing with like such a freaking wild situation. Like you weren't going to be like, now he defected and what? Like,
yeah, I actually liked the ending. I know that some people didn't, but I freaking loved it. It made me so happy. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know though. Yeah. But I get that some people were like, I invested all this time and I didn't like it. And I respect that.
Did you watch His Dark Materials? or
No,
read
what's
his Dark
that?
Materials, like The Golden Compass, The Amber. So this is not K-drama, this is Western, but it's the Philip Pullman series of like The Golden Compass, The Subtle
No, I
Knife,
didn't
and The
read
Amber
that.
Spyglass. Okay, they're
Mm-mm.
my favorite trilogy of. I love these books, and
Okay.
HBO did a series on it, and it recently finished. And I don't want to get into like the big spoilers of it, but if you watch his Dark Materials, at the end, it gave me one of those. I guess, I do like pain. So it ended with love and with sacrifice. And so it ends not happily, but it doesn't end tragically. It ends
Okay.
up being that, are they together? Not in this world kind of thing.
Mm.
But are they like deeply in love and like making a sacrifice? Yes. And I find like those endings often are painful to me, but then they make me think about the story for a really long time.
This is probably a bad example, but Cruel Intentions.
Ooh, yeah. I love Cruel Intentions.
So I
And
do
Dangerous
too.
Liaison.
I'm not saying, I don't want to say bad example. I'm saying, and I'm talking like the movie with Ryan Felipe and Reese.
Yeah.
Witherspoon.
No,
that Cruel Intentions.
Yes.
So to a degree, I like that ending too,
Mm-hmm.
because that didn't feel like a tragedy to me.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it, man. Sometimes, like I don't always think a tragedy means people die.
Mm-hmm.
It can mean there's something unrequited or something unfinished, and Cruel Intentions felt finished.
Mm-hmm.
The way it ended.
Okay, well, then let's
you know,
talk about like
remember what I mean when she is driving.
when she's driving
in his
away.
car,
I mean, it's amazing.
and with his diary next to her and her hair blowing in the wind, I was like,
And that music
chef's
score from
the
Cruel
music
Intentions
score
was great.
it's perfect.
Yeah, I really like that. And then, we could pivot to the perennial, not a romance, but held it to be a romance, The Notebook. And
Oh, I thought you were gonna say Titanic.
Actually,
Oh,
Titanic.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Titanic. Like, I mean, Titanic, man. Titanic was written by a man, is what it was.
Coming of age for me, though. I'm telling you, my life there's BT and AT before Titanic and after Titanic. Megan, I was a different person coming out of that movie.
So, okay, that's interesting because for me, it's Last of the Mohicans. I was 12 years old when I watched Last of the Mohicans. There is a HEA for one couple. And look, this is an old movie, so I'm spoiling it. There is a you die bad for the other couple. But that other couple was the one that gave me everything and effed me up. And I felt like set me on a trajectory probably for painful romance forever.
Right.
Because the entire
like
romance, the whole romance happens without them actually, I don't even think they might speak a single mouth word to each other. The entire show. It's them, you just see like long looks with like the dappled light, or with like the girl will stumble and he'll go back to get her. And then at the end, when he like sacrifices everything to like save her life and fails, you're just like, there, like it was like an entire B romance that had zero dialogue. It has like maybe 3 minutes of airtime total. Like if you splice together all the moments, and I still have my journal, like my diary from that time where I wrote that night, and I was like, I will never be the same.
That was me after Titanic. I was just a different person. It impacted me so greatly. I just can't even explain.
Imagine if YouTube was a thing when you were that age. You would have been a Titanic. Oh my God, I can't even think about like.
I would have written. If I would have like understood what fan fiction was like, because I didn't really in high school. Fan fiction was still like not super like mainstream like now it is. If I would have known, I would have absolutely written Titanic fan fiction. I would have been
like Leo became a merman.
I think so, and I would have and I would have watched a million edits of it with My Heart Will Go On playing in the background. Absolutely. I would have made TikToks. Oh God, I would have been
so I want to rewatch Titanic, and my family, my daughter just is like, no, it's going to be sad. And I'm like, yeah, I've been wanting to do a Titanic movie night for a long time. Because I haven't watched it in years.
to a degree, Titanic has that similar ending of Cruel Intentions, where, like, the woman has kind of, like, the man has, like, sacrificed for her, and she has changed, and now she's come into, like, her true self, in a way. In a way. That's kind of, I mean, I'm really simplifying, but I would say that's kind of similar.
Yeah.
I don't know, that's the thing, like, I'm picky about endings because it needs to be done a certain way. You know what I mean? And then there's just, endings that make me mad.
And I'm inconsistent. Like the Moon Lovers ending,
Same.
I totally like for some reason, even though it's horrifically not good. And it is what it is. We talked about that I talked about that with Sarah in the podcast recently. So, okay, my last thing to unburden myself with before we go, because we are almost at time. I've got one last thing.
Right. Okay.
Fingers and Mouths Are Sexy. I forget what my other one was today, but there was something else.
Sad Showers.
Sad Showers Are Sexy.
Mm-hmm.
This is a new one. Mullets Are Having a Moment.
100%. Or just even like the curly hair thing. The
yeah,
like wavy like perm.
The wolf
they're all getting now?
Yeah, but like Jun Hae Hoon in The Glory.
Oh.
That hair is that hair is hot. I both
love
man.
it and hate it.
Yeah,
he's a terrible man.
But the hair is hot. Just like, I've been watching like a lot of K-pop folks getting into like their wolf cuts and mullet. I mean, Jungkook's wolf cut at the moment, that mullet thing is unholy. Right.
It's so long right now.
With like the perm in it too. The permy mullet. Like what 1984 Def Leppard fever dream am I living in that this is hot to me?
Yeah, I feel like Carrots, which are the fandom of 17, have been like gatekeeping Uzi, because why did I not know about this like tiny short king who's like the main vocal of 17? He is tiny. What's hysterical is like 17 has some like really tall dudes. Like a lot of them are really, really tall. And then their main vocal, who's also like a crazy good producer, like all around guy.
You've been sending me stuff Uzi, and he is.
I can't.
You could put him in a pocket.
Oh
he's fun. So he's a fun size. He's a fun sized.
Oh, and he's so fucking cute. And there's a video of him dancing to Ditto by New Jeans. I have watched this stupid fucking video of him doing this a good 20 times. I am just like, who's gatekeeping this man? Why did I not know about him? And now all of a sudden I'm getting into 17 songs because of his fucking little ass. Like, I am so annoyed. I don't have time.
Yeah, I don't have time. I do not have
time to get into 17, who has a huge backlist. I don't have time for this. I'm irritated. And I just want to say one thing. I sent you a picture today of Songlaw from ATEEZ. I just need to unburden myself about what he is wearing at the airport.
Okay.
It is a belted trench coat with like bell sleeves. And he's wearing it with light jeans and camel boots, and he looks like a young wealthy widow who absolutely married for money.
Yeah.
And her 85-year-old husband died and she inherited everything. And she's on her way to go eat lunch and then fuck the pool boy. I mean, that is what she
it's exactly that. She's going to have 3 ice cubes in her white wine later.
Oh my God. I can't handle him in this coat. And the thing is, he loves it. Like he loves like more of the like I guess I don't want to say like gender, because clothes don't have a gender. I would say
he's
like
extra. He likes to be extra.
He likes to be extra. He likes to wear chokers. He likes to wear basically any clothing that he wants if it looks good. He doesn't worry about if it's like what gender that it might be in like the department store. I mean, he is this trench is everything. And I sent it to an 18-y friend of mine, and she's like, I know. She's like, I can't handle it either. I'm like, I cannot believe he showed up at the airport wearing this. Like,
So
anyway, that is
trench
the deep dive I've been on.
Young widow trench coats and fur fingers.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That's where we put our
and tiny Uzi. I mean, I seriously, like, his pants his inseam has to be like 26 inches.
He's like
so tiny.
I don't want to say he's your size, but he's almost your size.
Oh,
it's not much more.
I think I looked up and he's 5'5".
They're lying. They're lying.
They're like athletes. Yeah, like, you know how
he's like 5'2". Well,
not you, 'cause,
he's like 5'2".
Yeah, you're not like a sports person, but if you look up an athlete's height, you always deduct a couple.
Oh, I do.
They're
that
not
for me.
really.
Yeah, I do that.
Right,
all the time.
They lie. So I looked it up and it said he was 5'5". I was like, in no life.
If they're saying 5'5", he is like 4'11". For like show.
And I
was like, they're reaching. They're trying to be like, look, it's yeah.
They're reaching for 5'5". Like, my brother is 5'5". Yeah. He reaches and tries to say he's 5'6", which it's really funny. My brother has these like Carhartt bib overalls, and every time he wears them, my husband like cannot handle it. He's like, your brother looks like he's 12 every single time he wears.
A grown man wearing overalls is gonna.
But they're tiny overalls because my brother's 5'5".
They're like what he needs to do is have Oshkosh Bagosh.
He looks like he's out of Oshkosh Bagosh. Like, Neil cracks up every single time. I mean, my brother's 44, and yet he wears these Carhartts, and it like reduces him to like a 12-year-old boy. All right. Anyway, we gotta go.
Yeah. So wrapping it there. But yeah, it's if
we
you
covered a lot of topics today.
We did. I feel like I have unburdened myself.
Yeah, I feel like I got a lot of what I wanted to talk about, and that I didn't just like bombard Patreon with all my interests, because they're probably like, oh my god, it's because it was just a lot.
I have to keep my special interests to myself most of the time, so thank you for like hairy fingers and fingers and mouths
and trench
not
coats
something that like you can just bring up when you're like at work. Like, so does anybody else ever see like somebody put a finger in a mouth and just think that's really hot? Like, that's, you know. But now,
right, and like, I feel
there's like 1,000 of us plus who get to talk about it, or think now people get to think about it.
Yeah, well, it's like there are not very many people that I can like send a picture of Songwall in a trench coat and be like, please freak out with me over this trench coat he wore. There's like 2 people that I can send.
Yeah, and I was happy.
You're one of them.
I was happy to unpack his. You know, he might have put the pillow over the face.
Oh, he might have given him too many Viagra pills.
Yeah, but now he's got everything.
But now he's got the whole millionaire mansion. So
yeah, all right.
All right. Well, next time we'll have Amy.
Yeah, we will have Amy. We will be more organized. But you know what? I feel like I think we took it off. And I think we did take it off the rails, but we brought it back.
Yeah, I feel good about it.
Me
all
too.
right. Well, anyway, let us know if you need to unburden yourself, or if you agree.
Yeah, we'll put a thing on social media letting folks have the opportunity to unburden themselves as well.
Yeah, and let me know. Please let me know if any of you are watching Peak Time and Boys Planet, please, because I do need someone to talk to that about. So if you're watching that, please let me know, and I'll DM you.
All right. Well, annyeong!
Annyeong!
감사합니다. Thank you for listening to Afternoona Delight. Where can you find us outside the pod? Head on over to afternoonadelight.com. That's AFTERNOONADELIGHT.com. You'll find links to all our social media, our book recs, K-pop and K-skincare recs, and if you want even more Afternoona Delight, because really who doesn't, you can join our Patreon, where you can choose the patron level that's right for you. Join in daily K-drama conversations, listen to bonus podcast episodes just for patrons, and participate in our monthly live K-drama support group via Zoom. We can't wait for you to be a part of the community. Until next time, annyeong!